Hey there, I'm John Zimmerman with Upper Creek Angler, and today we're working through Steve Skuce's great book, Grayling Flies. This is fly number 41, this black bead CJ ant. This is a fly that I was fortunate to introduce Steve to a number of years ago, and which a mentor tire of mine, Bo Cash, introduced me to after he invented it. It's a copper john variant, but especially during the summer and late fall months here in the south, we get lots of drowned ants in the river system, and this was Bo's take on that pattern. So we'll work this black thread back to the back of the hook. We're only using a bare few materials on this. We use a dyed black pheasant tail, some black hackle fibers for the legs. The body will be black size brassy copper wire, and our thorax is just going to be some black ice dubbing. One of the reasons that Bo developed this fly in this way is that during the summer months and all of the big storms that we have that come through this region, typically we get lots of high water. So the traditional ant patterns that he was fishing and tying just weren't working for him all that well because they weren't sinking to the bottom like a fly like a copper john would. So he traded out some materials, made a few alterations, and came up with this version of a copper john. So we'll work back down, and as Bo did in the original pattern, we're going to split some of these pheasant tail fibers to the side and go in and cut a clump of them out so that we have created basically a split tail of our pheasant tail fibers. One little straggler right there. This, of course, does not need to be an exacting science, just as long as you get the idea of a split tail. Now, if you are a tyer of copper johns, you will know that the most essential thing to tying a good copper john is to having a nicely and even tapered body to tie the fly. Without that, you get unfixable bumps. Right there, that would have been one in the application of the wire. So I'm happy with this body at this point, so I'm going to run the thread all the way back to the back and tie in our wire flush with the pheasant tail. One mistake that I see a lot of people make is they'll tie the wire in and clip it close back here at the butt. I think that's a huge mistake because you wind up with a bulge of the end of the wire that you can never fix. If you tie the wire in all the way up to the top of the bead, all it does is maintain the exact same taper that you had already established. So now we'll just run our wire up to the top, making touching wraps all the way up. I don't know that I mentioned it, but this is a size 10 barbless nymph hook. I keep these in 10s all the way down to 18s. I chose the 10 simply because it would be easier for you to see me working it. Once we've worked this wire safely up to the top of the fly, we'll come in and tie it off and either helicopter this or use a pair of dull scissors that don't even cut thread anymore. Just work our way back a little bit down here to create a base for our thorax, which again is just going to be black ice stub. Dub this right onto the hook, right onto the thread. leave yourself some room at the top to tie in your legs. Just a couple pulls of black hackle fibers on both sides. Bo was pretty judicious with this, with the legs on this fly. So if you tie them in long, you can always pull them to shorten them up, like I did right there. And stroke these off for your next clump. And reach in and, as best as you can, tie them in the same length as your other ones. If you tie them in a soft loop, you can always reposition after you've tied. Now we'll pull both of these up and make a little bummer. My thread broke. You know, if I was a really ultra super professional fly tyer who wanted to pretend that he never made mistakes, I would cut this portion of the video out, but I'm not going to do that because even commercial fly tyers break their thread every now and then, and I promise none of us start over. So a quick re-threading of the bobbin here, and we're back in business. Cut all that out. We'll come back in and get the ends of the hackle fibers that we tied in. Cut those out on both sides. We will add one little pinch of ice dubbing and a really thin noodle to cover up our thread base right there, and tie a whip finish in right behind it. So this is Bo Cash's Black Bead CJ Ant, variation on a black bodied copper john, and one that I'll leave the name of the river undisclosed, but it was I've had lots of memorable days on rivers, but I have rarely cleaned up as much as I did on that specific chalk stream as I did with this fly. So tie yourself up a big bunch of these, and you know, if you've got red ants in your neck of the wood, if you've got black ants in your neck of the wood, whatever color ants that you have that end up in the water, just match that with the pheasant tail and the ice dubbing and the thread base. So again, this is fly number 41, the CJ, the black CJ Ant.